My name is David Glazman, and I work in the Migrant Education Program in HISD's Multilingual Department. I feel very fortunate to have the opportunity to speak to you today about a teaching practice that can fundamentally change the way that you instruct your students in your classroom to ensure that you reach all learners. I want to take you back to an experience that I had in first grade as I was learning, of course, multiplication. And at that time, I had a wonderful teacher named Mrs. Smith. But like all teachers, she had a standard curriculum that she had to follow and methods in the curriculum, of course, that dictated the way that she taught it. Unfortunately, the way that she had to teach it was designed for an average student. It didn't take into consideration that there were students who just learned differently than the way that the curriculum had stated. So as she taught us, of course, the way that the curriculum had asked her to teach it, which was through multiplication tables. And so she took us through in class the multiplication table. She had us do the standard whole class jazz chants and choral chants of the multiplication tables and had us rattle off all of the expressions, of course, that you see that were represented with the numerical symbols below. 2 times 3, 3 times 2, 4 times 3, and so forth and the like. Other times when she didn't use that, she used what was commonly practiced at that time, which were multiplication flashcards. And she worked individually, showing us the flashcards, saying the expression out loud, and asking for us to just recite the number, hoping that eventually that of course, that the multiplication would just stick in our heads. Unfortunately, the way that she was teaching it to me just wasn't sticking in my head. And day after day, I grew more and more frustrated by the fact that I just could not learn multiplication. It wasn't until one day that she decided to do things a little bit differently outside of the curriculum. Instead of just only representing multiplication using the numerical symbols or as an expression, she decided to include pieces of paper below the expression, and then she gave me this explanation. She said, all multiplication really is groups of numbers. So 2 times 3 really is just two groups of three things. And she said, so when you see this, I want you to take 3 pieces of paper and create 2 groups, which is what I did. Here was one group, here was a second group of 3, and then she said, now just simply count them, and I did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It was at that moment that the light bulb went on, and I really understood what multiplication was. She had reached me through a method that wasn't stated in the curriculum, but was individualized for my personal needs. I still learned what everyone else was learning. I just learned it in a different way. And pretty soon I started using this new method in all of the worksheets that she gave me and also all of the quizzes. And pretty soon, when my friends saw that I was becoming a multiplication whiz, they too started asking, hey, what is this new method that you're using to figure this out? Can I use all of the dots and pieces of paper below my math problems to figure them out? And sure enough, they too benefited from the new method that Mrs. Smith had shown me. I say all this because it relates certainly to this phenomenal new teaching practice called Universal Design for Learning. And what Mrs. Smith had done, unbeknownst to her, was use the first principle of Universal Design for Learning, which was to represent what you're teaching in multiple different ways to provide different pathways to understanding what the teacher was trying to teach. And it's at this point that I would like to share an informational video, no more than 4 minutes, about this teaching practice, Universal Design for Learning.